Order, members. I've been informed that the whip party has agreed that there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. Before we proceed, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our special delegates. I can see a lot of them from our respective provinces, and also extend a word of welcome to the Deputy President to this August House NCOP. Honorable members, it will be in order to remind you that there is an allocated time for the supplementary question, which is strictly 2 minutes. So if you want to do your preamble, we are dealing with your 2 minutes. And the supplementary question must be linked to the original question. So, Honorable Julius.
Sorry for the delay. I just want to know whether your efforts to remind us of the rules is in any way wanting to restrict us or to protect someone. Thank you.
No? No, honorable members, let me assist. It's just to assist the House so that we don't compromise the decorum of the House. Specifically meant for that. No any other thing besides making sure that we don't compromise the decorum of the House. Honorable Labuskachne.
Thank you for this. I really urge this House to sort out what is against the rules and within the rules before we are in the House, and inform all of us. Because it is a rule that it should not have more than 5 subdivisions. It is not an issue that should have been solved in this House. It should have been communicated to all of us before the sitting. There was enough time for that. Thank you.
Now your point is in order. Without much ado, let me take this opportunity and in terms of the rule of the House, if the member that has asked a question is not in the House, then you make an arrangement by doing it in writing. And the first question to the Honorable Deputy President is from Honorable Mohai. And Honorable Mohai is not in the House, and the arrangement has been made. So Honorable Pakis will be standing in for Honorable Mohai. We start with question number 13 in terms of the question, which will be our question number 1. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Chairperson, without doubt, the current efforts are beginning to yield positive results in terms of skill development, job creation, and economic growth. However, a lot more still needs to be done. The intention of the National Industrial Policy Framework is to effect structural changes in our growth path towards a more labor-absorbing and value-adding economy. In this process, it was important to prioritize areas of economy and diversify the geographic spread of industrial development. This also includes a focus on skills development through integration of SMMEs into the value chain and incubation programs. To expand the skills base that supports industrial development, government is implementing programs that are aimed at addressing the shortage of scarce and critical skills across the key sectors of our economy. This includes government's renewed focus on apprenticeship and development of artisans, particularly focusing and promoting youth employment. Through targeted bursaries, opportunities are provided to enhance the development of scarce and critical skills, including international studies in partnership with countries abroad. More importantly, partnership between industry and higher education institutions are clearly geared towards aligning industry skills demand with the supply of critical skills by our higher education system. Honorable members, one of the core objectives of the National Industrial Policy Framework is the promotion of a broader-based industrialization path characterized by greater levels of participation by those historically were disadvantaged and marginalized. It focuses on identifying and addressing the cross-cutting and sector-specific constraints and opportunities prevailing in the industrial economy through 13 strategic programs. One of the strategic programs is spatial and industrial infrastructure, which is important in fostering industrial clustering. Support has been expanded from the industrial development zones to include the creation of special economic zones. These economic zones are central to government strategic objectives of industrialization, regional development, and employment creation. The special economic zone programs were specifically developed to promote the creation of a regionally diversified industrial economy by establishing new industrial hubs in underdeveloped regions of our country. The total number of designated special economic zones has to date increased to 9. The majority of these were designated as ITZ and are presently in the process of transitioning their institutional governance and ownership structure in compliance with the requirements of the SEZ Act. The designated SEZ continue to show positive progress in terms of the number of investors operating in those zones. More importantly, there has also been a significant increase of the number and value of secured investment in those zones. The number of operational investors in designated special economic zones has increased from 72 to 80, with an investment value of over 10 billion. The number of direct jobs created to date is 13,722. The number of secured or signed investors is standing at 86, with a total investment value of 52.2 billion. These special economic zones include Richards Bay ITZ, Saldanha Bay ITZ, the Dube Trade Port SEZ, the Kucha ITZ, East London ITZ, Gauteng ITZ, Maluti Apafung SEZ, Atlantis SEZ, Musina Makado SEZ. Some of these SEZs, such as Musina Makado SEZ, Saldanha Bay, Maluti Apafung, and the Atlantis, are in the previously marginalized areas. Work is underway between the Department of Trade and Industry and provinces on the planning and implementation of SEZs in the following previously marginalized communities: Nkomazi in Mpumalanga, Bojanala in Northwest, Uppington in the Northern Cape, and Tubatsi in Limpopo. Additionally, in order to bring about full-scale industrialization and inclusive growth, government initiated a structured program for the revitalization of industrial parks that are located in old industrial areas across our country. The program has identified 11 state-owned industrial parks that has to be revitalized, and this is implemented through national government in partnership with provinces, their agencies and municipalities. I'm advised by the Department of Trade and Industry that to date, a total of 65,854 jobs have been created within these state-owned industrial parks across the country. These cover townships and underdeveloped areas such as Buchabelo, Seshego, Garankuwa, Nkoankoa, Isitebe, to name a few. In the last 2 years alone, government has invested approximately 511 million in revitalizing the basic infrastructure of 10 industrial parks across South Africa to address the challenges of industrial development infrastructure such as electricity, water, and sewer system. This has assisted in arresting the decline in the industrial park infrastructure so as to encourage further and further investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, allow me to extend a word of welcome to Stellenbosch Girls High School in our Kalari. You are welcome. Honorable Pakis.
Honorable Chair, let's welcome the response from the Deputy President. My follow-up question will be, one, it's so veritable, Honorable Chair, that there's a constant attack on our government that we are creating makeshift jobs without quality. It was going to be so important for the Deputy President just to give and highlight the quality of jobs that we have created in this special economic zone, the industrial parks that he's talking about, and on the level of the skill and the relevance of that skill that we have created, or we are creating, because in the current situation is that people who are earning and acquiring the skill is said not to be relevant to the demand of the market. Thanks.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chair. The quality of our skills in the country on a day-to-day basis, it's becoming better and better. All those that are given an opportunity to train, remember, training will always be an ongoing process. You move from one phase of training to another phase of training until you are highly skilled. Therefore, training is a process. I can guarantee you that in these special economic zones, people are investing, and of course, they will require certain skills. Training will happen in those special economic zones. Incubation will happen until our young people reach a high level of expertise. Yes, it's not an easy process as a country to acquire the best skills that our economy needs. This will require more collaboration between industry and the training institutions, so that the theory that our young people get in their training is put into practice in the world of work, in industries. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable De Blanche.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President. In your response, Deputy President, you refer to the National Industrial Policy Framework and the Human Resource Development Strategy and your intentions regarding that. Will you please indicate whether those are the only two elements of the economy that you are currently focusing on, or are you focusing on the total restructuring of the economy? Thank you, sir.
Honorable Deputy President.
We are, as government, focusing on all the sectors that constitute our economy. But the industrial policy framework includes a lot of sectors, like leveraging public expenditure to intervene in the economy. It includes innovation and technology, what the Department of Science and Technology is doing. If you have noticed the launch of the 64 Meerkat space technology, that is a very important project in the country that seeks to lay a firm basis for research and innovation. Our industrial policy framework also looks at finance and services to small, medium enterprises. It looks at spatial and industrial infrastructure. It looks at the competition policy and regulation. We're looking at a number of programs that would rekindle our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Makwebo.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Deputy President, you have indicated in your response that these initiatives of dealing with marginalized townships, there's a lot of public fund, billions that are invested in these. So now here is my question, and I want you to listen to this, Deputy President. In Dr. W.B. Khobusana region in Tanzania in the Eastern Cape has over this weekend elected Phumlani Mkholo. You may not know him, but I'll tell you who he is. He is facing currently fraud and corruption charges related to the funeral of former President Nelson Mandela, and yet he has been elected as the regional chairperson in this region, and in Tanzania amongst this is the area that is under this region. Now, my question is, has the ANC is running out of leaders to elect people like this? And second, in Tanzania being the second largest township, or are you agreeing with what the ANC is doing, that is hijacking and stealing cities and metros that have been democratically and constitutionally won, like Nelson Mandela and Tshwane? What is your response? Because we will need men and women of integrity that will handle billions of public funds. What is your response, Deputy President?
Honorable members, I don't need assistance, and we are making it difficult because we must hear the question. Well, can you take your seat, Honorable Makwebo? Honorable members, let me go back to my remark. Well, I'll leave it to the Honorable Deputy President. I'll outline when he started that if we are asking a supplementary question, it must be directly linked to the original question. But I'm leaving it to the Deputy President if he's interested in commenting in it. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, it's a good question that we can discuss about and talk about. But unfortunately, in the context of what we currently busy with, it becomes irrelevant.
Honorable Deputy President, we now come to question. Order, members. Honorable Deputy President, Honorable, Hon- Honorable Makwebu, Honorable Makwebu. Honorable Deputy President, we come to the second question asked by Honorable Julius. Yeah, those were the only hands. Yeah. Honorable Deputy President, we come to the second question asked by Honorable Julius.
Come on. Thank you. Chairperson, with your respect, I thought I had seen you nodding when the hand of my Honorable Whitfield was up as a follow-up question.
Hand of what?
I thought when he lifted his hand to make a follow-up question, Andrew Whitfield on my left, my colleague next to me, I thought you've recognized him. Am I
No,
right?
I was nodding when you were raising your hand. I missed it.
And he raised his one as well. And I thought
Whose hand?
you've recognized. He raised the hand.
No, it
actually
won't
before
do
me.
any harm. I'm sorry, I missed it. Was supposed to have four supplementary questions. It was three. So the fourth one, I missed it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
No, I missed it. I was nodding when I was nodding your hand. It was your hand. Honorable Whiteley, that's the last supplementary question in terms of the first question. No, I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed the hand. Honorable Whitefield is a special delegate from the Eastern Cape.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Deputy President, I'm sure that we can agree that in the interests of economic growth in previously marginalized communities in areas like Nelson Mandela Bay, township communities like KwaZakele, Motherwell, New Brighton, Fia Plus, and KwaNobuhle, that since 2016, over 85% of the municipal budget has been redirected to previously marginalized communities in the interests of stimulating economic growth by providing infrastructure that can create opportunities for the people in those communities. However, the ANC government appears to be doing the opposite in the Eastern Cape. Under the leadership of MEC Kasa, who's seated here today, there was an unlawful council meeting that took place on Monday last week that removed Executive Mayor Athol Trollip from the municipality. Does the Deputy President believe that local government stability and progress in local governments should be prioritized in the interests of previously marginalized communities? Does he believe that the council meeting that took place in the afternoon of Monday last week was in the interest of economic growth in previously marginalized communities? Thank you.
Honorable members, don't just create a problem that is not necessary. It's entirely up to us to make sure that we don't compromise the decorum of the House. If a member is asking a question that is not linked to the original question, as a presiding officer, I'll leave it to the President whether it's interested in commenting, and we'll take it from there. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. For progress and growth in our country, it's important that we always strive very hard for peace and stability. In the case of Nelson Mandela Bay, the parties there decided on their own to go into a coalition, which of course some of us were just spectators when they agree to say we are going to work together. And down the line they disagree, and the entire marriage collapses. That is, unfortunately, the problem with coalition. They are not stable. They are not stable. Unfortunately, you are part and parcel of that unstable environment. Find a way of stabilizing it for the sake of the people of Nelson Mandela.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, we now come to the second question asked by Honorable Julius. In terms of the question paper, it's 1-4. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chair. As part of the support to the Minister of Basic Education, His Excellency the President, accompanied by myself, held a breakfast on the 14th of August, where Sanitation Appropriate for Education initiative was launched. The aim of the launch was to invite the private sector and other generous South Africans to pledge financial resources and other technical support in alleviating the problem of inappropriate sanitation in our schools, in particular pit latrines. The Department of Basic Education was advised to develop a plan informed by the audit of the current state of sanitation in schools across the country. The Presidency will monitor and provide support throughout the implementation of the plan. In addition to the above support, we will continue to solicit more support from the private sector to enhance collaboration. I will engage with other departments that have a role in the provision of sanitation, such as water and sanitation, culture and environmental affairs, as well as the local spheres of government to play their part. We'll implore communities to support the SAFE initiative and discourage those that are disrupting construction projects on site once they've started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Julius. The first supplementary question.
Baie dankie, agbare huisvoorsitter. Deputy President, let me just bring you back to the last time you were in the NCOP. I asked you a question on the allegations of how you acquired land corruptly in your province. And your answer to that question was, I asked you whether you will actually go and report yourself to open that case. And your answer was, do you want me to kill myself? And I found it appalling. Now, I'm again putting to you today, first let me go to your response. You know, you say fundraising, and other people that are sabotaging projects will be, but nothing happens to corruption because people, you go and raise funds and then someone steals it for toilets. Will you agree that Parliament's efforts, when it comes to you now, should include an investigation by SCOPA on the large-scale misappropriation of funds from the budget of the Mpumalanga Department of Education to finance your own personal and political party interests as alleged by the New York Times article? The money which the New York Times article alleged you stole was supposed to do exactly what SAFE initiative is mandated to do, to improve school infrastructure and eliminate pit toilets. If you will not support an investigation like you say last time from SCOPA, is it because you are afraid you will be found guilty? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. The funds that are going to be contributed by the private sector will be administered by the National Education Collaboration Trust as the fund holder, and they will make it a point that they are being utilized correctly. Now, with regards to any maladministration, misuse of money, any investigation that will help us to discover the misuse, it's welcome. Whether it's COPA or whoever, we welcome any investigation. We will subject ourselves to the law. We'll always be the law-abiding citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kaula, second supplementary question.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo ohloniphekile. Ngiyabingelela mhlonishwa. Kuyintokozo ukuba nawe. Honorable Deputy President, one of the programs for infrastructure and education, ASIDI, which is responsible for mud school eradication, is notorious for underspending. Some provinces in infrastructure grant programs have also been underspending for years. National Treasury report is that education infrastructure grant for new and replacement schools in 2017-18 was spent well below target. Now, how do you justify underspending in view of infrastructure challenges, like you have said, that schools are experiencing in the country?
Honorable Deputy President.
Infrastructure underspending will never be justified. I'm aware that provinces are struggling with a number of factors. Of course, to say they are struggling with a number of challenges does not make it right to underspend on infrastructure. Provinces are challenged in terms of planning. Before you build a school, you must identify a site. Together with the municipality, you must design the school before time. When the financial year kicks in, procurement processes must start so that you can spend the money within the appropriate year. So provinces are challenged because they go and budget the money to build a school. When the financial year starts, they are starting to go and identify a site. After having identified the site, they enlist the support of professionals to design the school, and that takes long. Up until the end of the financial year. When they start the procurement process, the year is finished, and they have not spent that money. To say money is committed doesn't mean a thing. Money must be used. Money must be used. You have committed it, it means it must be rolled over into the next financial year. So most of our provinces are challenged in terms of planning. But when we look at the amount of work that has been achieved, it's quite impressive, but with the money that is available in the country, we could have achieved even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The third supplementary question is from Honorable Dlamini.
Angibonga kakhulu isihlobo, ngibonga ukusekela mangamela, and ngibonga uhulumende ukuprioritize indzaba yetindlu tangensense etikolweni. Honorable Deputy President, uma kushona lo mntwana wase-Eastern Cape eMbizane, besikhona lesi NCOP. Lesi kurealizile-ke ukuthi lama toilet makhulu kunalabantwana because le ECD preschool ingene after my toilet has been built. I-question yami ke ithi ke ikhona yini indlela ukuthi uma kucala le program si prioritize lokufaka ama toilet angangabo labantwana etikolweni while looking at other general toilets.
Honorable Deputy President.
Our program of early childhood development, though very important, and appreciating the fact that currently early childhood development, where it is conducted, the environment is not safe for the children. It's not conducive for learning. But that does not mean we can simply take them into a primary school and find a class for them. No. Early childhood development requires specific and specialized infrastructure because it's designed for children under the age of 7. So even their sanitation is different. Even their chairs are different. And during the day, there must be space and time to allow them to go and sleep. They can't be active the whole day. So you need specialized infrastructure for them. So I agree with you. We will discourage primary schools to just accept these grade R's for the sake of increasing the numbers without the necessary infrastructure that will back the inclusion of early childhood development. Thank you.
Thank you. The last supplementary question in this question is from Honorable Mangete. Honorable Mangete.
Thank you, Chairperson. 486 ablution facilities have actually been built in the entire country, and of those, 181 were developed in the province of the Eastern Cape in the Department of Basic Education. And further than that, 148 state-of-the-art schools were built, further providing appropriate ablution facilities. One would appreciate the fact that a lot of work has been done in this regard.
Sorry, Honorable Mangete. Honorable Julius, why are you doing what you are doing? Okay, let me hear the point of order.
House Chairperson, I don't think the members here to answer questions today. We hold the Deputy President accountable. It's typical ANC style to answer on behalf of, we are all accountable to hold the Deputy President accountable, but the ANC members will always answer on behalf of. You're not elected as a Deputy President. Let's hold him accountable. He's capable to answer questions and he should do it. Don't give answers.
Honorable Julius. Order members. Honorable Julius. Order members. Honorable Julius, you know very well that when it was your turn to ask a question, when you started by doing the remarks, you were not even stopped. So let's refrain from doing anything that will compromise this thing. Are you done with your question, Honorable Mangete? Can you conclude your question?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Nonetheless, one would recognize the fact that whilst a lot of work has been done, Honorable Deputy President, a lot of work still lies ahead. We regret the loss of life of the learners as a result of lack of appropriate ablution facilities. Then my question is, in light of the fact that your government is approaching the private sector to come in as partners, because we all agree that education is a societal issue, is there any visible evidence of commitments on the part of the private sector to come and partner with us to improve the standard of infrastructure in the Department of Basic Education?
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I agree with your observation. Well, we have covered enough ground, but there's still a lot of work ahead of us. In that breakfast meeting, we got 145 million commitments on that day. This is the money that will be transferred to the body that will keep the money and work with the Department of Education so that they can accelerate the building of safe sanitation infrastructure. A further 50 million was made in pledges. So all in all, during that breakfast meeting, we're able to raise 195 million. Now, this 195 million will go to approximately 4,000 sanitation infrastructure, which is going to be distributed all over the country. But we are going to start with schools where they don't have any ablution facilities. In the country as a whole, we've got 37 schools that are without an ablution facility. We've got 8,702 schools that are still using pit latrines. We've got 7,433 schools that are using very improved ventilated pit latrines. And we've got 92 schools that use chemical toilets. Shame on us as a country with our background, where we come from.
Order, members.
We are coming from a situation where, honorable members, some learners did not even have a school. They were learning under the trees. I'm not very sure how honorable members are not touched about this situation. We are talking about children. We are talking about children that deserves education. But you'll know very well that the kind of education that we have inherited was meant for few people, not for the majority of our people. Some of our people in the rural villages did not have a school, did not have water, did not have roads, did not have a clinic, nothing. Well,
Honorable members.
Thank you.
Honorable members, let me remind you once again, while it's haggling, it's allowed, but you can't be drowning the speaker at the podium. You can't even be debating with the speaker at the podium. Honorable Makwele, why are you standing?
I'm disturbed, Chair. You'll rule me out of order if I'm out of order. There is a member, there is a special delegate from Northwest. He's a member of DA. According to my understanding and the manner in which we have counted our votes in my province, Northwest, DA doesn't qualify for a special delegate in this house. So I'm checking with you, Chair, that is it allowed for a DA to have a special delegate in this house? And according to the votes that they have received in Northwest, they don't have a stand to send a special delegate in the house. It's only ANC and EFF. Thank you.
Let me assist. Honorable members, can you put your hand down, Honorable Laboskar? Honorable members, you were correct to say I'll rule it in order or out of order. Allow me in our next sitting to make an appropriate ruling about it. But let us not divert and deal with it now, because it has to do with more of our rules and how we conduct our business. Let's focus on the business of today. Honorable, not unless you are rising on a different matter. I've made a ruling. You can't be questioning my ruling. If you've got a problem with it, there's a clear procedure of how to deal with it. What is something else?
Different point of order, Chair.
Point of order to who?
Chairperson, the rule in this house is that when there's a point of order, it's a point of order, Chair.
Yeah.
Rule of this house, Chair, is that when there's a point of order, the speaker sits down. However, the deputy has not sat down once. Can you please ask him to follow the rules of this house?
Okay. Honorable Deputy President, If they are rising only on the point of order, then you have to use the city there, if it's a point of order. But now there's no point of order, we are fine. Honorable Mokwele? Okay, can you take your seat, Deputy President? Honorable Kone?
I wanted to see if he was going to take his seat. I agree you are saying you will on a point of order, so I was
No,
thinking
it's
on a point
doing
of order
that.
to check if you will take
We are
his
out
seat.
of order, Honorable
Thank you,
Kone.
Chair.
Honorable Deputy President, we are now coming to the third question asked by Honorable Mhlanga. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we all agree that we should pursue national unity, we should pursue peace, we should pursue reconciliation, so as to pave a way for the reconstruction of our society. Our common desire should be to ensure that all of us, including corporate citizens, participate and cooperate in the self-driven reconstruction and development of our country. There is a special and general acceptance that the goals we defined for ourselves as we adopted the Constitution have not been fully realized. Currently, the situation demands of us to act together more than before and to resolve our national challenge of inequality and wealth disparities, which in the main are derived from land dispossession and landlessness. It is these skewed ownership patterns that should mobilize all justice-seeking people and equality activists to continue in the building of a united and a prosperous South Africa anchored on the values of our Constitution. We must confront the historical fault lines and injustices that continue to threaten our peace and stability, so that finally we can move forward as one people, one nation, and one South Africa founded on our shared values. There's reality that our land reform program, in its current construct, remain hopelessly inadequate to mitigate the negative impact of the legacy of colonialism and apartheid. This state of affairs continues to be a huge source of frustration and resentment to those who were dispossessed of their land. It is therefore imperative for us to execute a comprehensive land reform program, which in its implementation will enable us to truly transform our country into a non-racial, non-sexist, humane, and equal society. Our land reform program must exhaust all available mechanisms to address the past injustices. Our land reform program has been very slow and causing a lot of frustration amongst claimants due to budgetary constraints and a willing buyer, willing seller approach. The land reform program in its current shape, it is clearly unable to meet even the modest and very conservative targets that we have set for ourselves. It is in fact a fact that the bulk of the land of this country is still firmly in the hands of very few people. The question that confronts us is that our political emancipation project remains meaningless as long as it does not translate into economic emancipation. And land ownership is at the heart of such emancipation. The market-led mechanism of pursuing land reform has proved to be cumbersome, protracted, and inappropriate. No political stability, peace, and democracy are imaginable as long as the bulk of the land is in the hands of the few. In reality, the positive prospects of our shared destiny are largely dependent on our ability to resolve this land question in a very responsible and a fair manner. If we do not take the necessary decisions that will address the current state of inequality and concretely deal with the past injustices with necessary firmness and determination, we will be postponing the inevitable social friction that will pull us backward instead of launching us as a people into a prosperous and a shared future. As government, we have engaged in a process that is transparent, responsible, and one that provides the required leadership on how we should finalize land expropriation without compensation. Comprehensive land reform as a means of addressing past injustices that has produced the prevailing triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. It's necessary for our country to move forward as a nation that is united in its diversity. Without this historic redress, we risk having endless social, racial, and class frictions. As the government of the ANC, our preoccupation is fulfilling the vision of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and a prosperous country. Through each election, we have made a social contract with the people of South Africa to resolve the land question in a manner that is inclusive, responsible, and mutually reinforcing in order to attain a better life for all our people. It is no coincidence that at the government level, we have established the Interministerial Committee on Land Reform. The task of this committee is to provide political oversight on the work being undertaken with regards to the implementation of land reform and related anti-poverty intervention on land and agrarian reform. In our engagement with the agricultural sector, we have assured farmers, who, by the way, have come together and agreed to cooperate as different farmer unions, that will work with them as the IMC and the panel of experts that the President will appoint. This panel will assist all of us in providing a unified perspective on expropriation of land without disrupting our productive capacity and economic growth. We are encouraged by the goodwill of farmers, both black and white, who have expressed their support to this process. They have expressed their unequivocal commitment to work with government and finding practical solutions to the land reform challenges. As government, we are encouraged by wide commercial farmers because of their willingness to partner with government in implementing different models in order to address the land question, including donating land currently in their hands. The farmers' unions under Agri-Sector Union Forum were emphatic that as agricultural sector, they do not need other organizations outside of this formation to speak on their behalf, as they are capable of doing so themselves. In the final analysis, this country belongs to all of us. We must continue to work together in building a country of Nelson Mandela's dream. We must ensure that social cohesion remains our mantra. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Mhlanga.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Ngiyabonga the response from the excellent Deputy President. Perhaps, Chair, my follow-up question on this one, it will be just one question around the issue of seeing that we will still have this divided pattern of a country, wherein you found a certain population of our society, being South African, choosing to sit alone as segregated society. For example, places like Orania. Is places like Orania not compromising the project, social cohesion? That would be my question. Is that area not compromising our project of cohesion? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, in our understanding of freedom, freedom means freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom to choose where you want to live. I don't think we should describe our differences in terms of where we live, because we are living in one country, and that country is South Africa. The practical question that we must face as a country is to change the mindset of those who are oppressed and the oppressors. They must come to terms with the fact that they should be redressed. Those who were oppressed, they were dispossessed of what belongs to them, and that is the land. And that, until we redress that, will remain a sore point generations and generations to come.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Julius.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Deputy President, you know, both on the issue of land and education, you are implicated of alleged corruption. And I find it very, very patronizing, to say the least, that someone can come here and say we blame our difficult past of apartheid, when you had the opportunity to eradicate that past of that children there and of land. You had the opportunity. Instead, you are alleged to have taken it away from them. And today you come here and say you blame apartheid. Let me tell you what Nelson Mandela said about apartheid, blaming apartheid. We still have to eradicate the past, Deputy President. But he said, let me paraphrase him, he said that in 2003 already, he said, we are now almost 10 years into democracy. We cannot forever blame apartheid for tardiness. And in this case, it's corruption. We cannot blame apartheid alone for tardiness. Deputy Chairperson, before even hearing the opinion of the Khoi San and other people in the Western Cape with public participation, the President announced his support of expropriation without compensation. He announced it already. It makes me wonder what the point of public participation, taking Parliament to the people, and other such mechanisms are if they are not considered. And these democratic processes are being undermined by the executive authority of our country. Now, do you agree that it was irresponsible of the President to announce your party's position on land expropriation before these hearings were completed? And what do you think is the right process as leader of government business? What's the right process in this regard in terms of public participation?
Honorable
Thank
Julius, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I'm sure I'm going to concentrate on your latter part of your speech, the question, not the other part of the question. Well, I'm not dodging that
Order,
first
members.
part.
Order, members.
To answer the first part, I said in my answer that the current model that we are utilizing, land reform model, is proving to be unworkable. The process and the pace at which we are moving is frustrating to the claimants, and it's causing a lot of resentment. Now, it's not achievable. It's not achievable because land is getting expensive and expensive. Now, government, the proposal that we have put in the House that has led to the constitutional review process. Remember, that was sponsored by the ANC, supported by the EFF. Remember. And remember that the ANC went into its own conference. And in the conference, the ANC took a resolution.
Order, members.
The ANC took a resolution that we are going to transfer land through expropriation without compensation. And we're the first to sponsor that. So I don't know why are we criticizing the president of the ANC when it's advocating that resolution of the ANC. And all parties have got the right to advocate the policies of their own parties. So the president was advocating the resolution of the ANC. It is our intention, and we've made that intention clear in Parliament that we want to amend this section of the Constitution. And that has culminated into a process of consultation, but the intention, we've made it clear right from the beginning, to say we want to amend it. Let's hear what the people are saying. And that intention is still valid even today. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me take the point of order from Honorable Kaula. Honorable Kaula.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy President. The point of order now.
According to the rules of oral questions and responses, the person responding is not supposed to be talking to questions of a party political nature. Those are the rules, Chair. Cannot respond to questions of party political nature, which means responses also cannot be responses of party political nature. Thanks.
Can you take your seat? Honorable Kaula, you have raised your point of order, but unfortunately it's not sustained because when members are not sticking to the original question, they are making remarks. We leave it to the Honorable Deputy President whether it's interested in commenting on it. So I can't be able to say you can't go beyond that because the comments are beyond that. No, Honorable Kaula, I've made my ruling. There's a procedure if you are not. Honorable Mokwele, Honorable Mokwele, Honorable Faba, take your seat.
Faba, take your
It's
seat.
Honorable Mokwele.
You are not recognized.
Yeah, it's Honorable Mokwele. The third supplementary question is from Honorable Mokwele. Honorable Mokwele.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President.
You can stand. It's a supplementary question.
It's a supplementary question.
It's a
You can
supplementary
sit
question.
down. It's not a problem. Either way. Chair, I want to ask Deputy President that he is aware that the chunk of the land is in the hands of the white people. According to the statistics, 13% is owned by the blacks, of which blacks are in majority, and 87% is in the hands of the white minority. And out of that 87%, 46% of the land is under the hands of the foreigners. Now, my question is, I know that Parliament is busy on the public participation in terms of the amendment of the Constitution. Would you say in your submission, Deputy President, that if ever we allow the processes to continue and at the end the section 25 of the Constitution gets amended, will you then say, as the ruling party, the state should be the custodian of the land? And what is your position in terms of the communal land and the arable land that history and statistics facts shows that is in the hands of the white minority? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Our land reform model seeks to transfer land to individual owners so that they can have title on the land. It doesn't help the state to keep the land to itself because it does not transfer the value of the land to the users. Whatever we're going to do, whether we avail land for human settlement as government, that land finally will translate into an individual title deed going to a person, right? Now, our land restitution, the land is going to go to those people who were dispossessed of their land. Now, this land, part and parcel of the land that we're talking about. We are talking about the land that is there, out there, has got owners, it's underutilized, or it's unused. We've got absent landlords. We are talking about the land that is currently held by commercial farmers. And to those commercial farmers, we are saying to them, we don't want to destroy the productive capacity of the land. They must step forward and share the land. They must step forward and share the land. They must know that from the onset, the land was dispossessed from someone. We are not chasing anyone. We are all South Africans. According to our Freedom Charter, the people shall share in the country's wealth. And we want to share in the country's wealth. We are not going to chase anyone away, but let's share. Let's share this land. And we are encouraging people to come forward with different models to say, I'm prepared to give these labor tenants that were always in this farm, I'm prepared to give them part of the farm so that they can farm and be like me. They can't be poor and poor forever in their own land. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The last supplementary question is from Honorable Prince. Honorable Prince.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Deputy President. There are people who ascribe the technical downgrade of the country to the expropriation of land. These rumors within and also outside the country can create fear amongst people and can have a negative impact on foreign investors. What measures does the government have in place to allay these fears and to counter the negative propaganda?
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. We're quite aware that our people are scared, that the ruling party is not going to handle this process in a very responsible way. We want to assure everyone that this land reform program is going to be handled in a responsible manner. We are going to make it a point that it does not destroy our productive capacity, but it opens up new entrances in the agricultural sector. There should be new people that must come and farm, and we must allow that. So we want to assure you that going forward, we want to do this in a constitutionally accepted process. That is why we are taking the constitutional review process, so that the supreme law of the country is respected at all times. So the Constitution, our intention is to amend the Constitution to give government that right to expropriate land without compensation where necessary, to ensure that we redress. We give those people that were dispossessed of their land. But be careful that we are not going to disrupt the food that we're getting, the food that is being produced now by our farmers. But we want these farmers to acknowledge the fact that this land, where they are farming today, was dispossessed from other people.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Deputy President, we now come to question, the fourth question, which is question 16, asked by Honorable Kaula. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chair. According to the state's SA quarterly labor force survey of the third quarter of 2017, more than 18 million above the age of 20 years have educational levels below the National Senior Certificate. There were more than 3.3 million youth aged between 15 and 24 years, and 4.6 million between 25 and 34 years who were not in education, who were not in employment or training. Despite some improvements on the 2008 base figures, it is clear that the challenge of youth not in education, not in employment or training remains with us. We need to intervene decisively to advance youth development and empowerment. Noting these developments as identified by Stats SA, the Human Resource Development Council, through the Human Development Strategy, championed the notion of young unemployed people participating in technical and vocational education and training programs in order to assist them to enter the labor market. I'm advised by the Department of Higher Education that over the last 3 years, 2016 and 17 to 2018 and 19, more than 2 billion has been allocated to drive occupational trade programs that are offered by TVET colleges through the National Skills Fund. To this end, in 2016 alone, the labor market has absorbed 62,000 youth who graduated from TVET colleges. On skills development support for entrepreneurship and cooperative development, the NYDA, the IDC, and the Small Enterprise Finance Agency launched a 2.7 billion youth fund in 2015 to foster entrepreneurship among the youth of our country. One of the critical areas of focus by the Human Resource Development Council is on improving the levels of skills in the South African workforce. For example, between the years 2010 and 2014, the share of the employed with matriculation certificate has increased by 2.6%, from 49% to 52%. And the share of employed with tertiary education has increased from 19.3% to 20.5% over the same period. In line with the National Development Plan, The Human Resource Development Council is championing worker education, which is considered critical in building skills for our economy. This is aimed at increasing the number of workers participating in various learning programs to improve their skills levels from 37% in 2016 to a minimum of 80% in 2030. Over 200,000 individual workers, employed and unemployed, have participated in programs funded by the sector education and training authorities. In terms of bridging the gap between the country's economic needs, the Human Resource Development Council was instrumental in driving focused interventions with respect to the production of artisans. As a result, the number of artisans qualifying increased from less than 10,000 in 2010 to more than 22,000 in 2017. The Department of Higher Education and Training has renewed its focus on apprenticeship and the implementation of policy on artisan trades, particularly focusing on promoting youth employment. This further complements other initiatives of skills development and learner exchange programs that we implement through various partners with other countries. There has also been an expansion in the number of young people engaging in programs that are occupationally directed and funded through CITES. The National Student Financial Aid Scheme, National Youth Development Agency, National Skills Fund, provincial government and municipalities, all of these are assisting in skills development. The partnership with industry and higher education institutions have also contributed a lot in addressing gaps that exist in the job market. The 2017 report of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development titled Getting Skills Right in South Africa has called for the provision of tailor-made career advice services to students based on better skills needs of our country. Provincial Human Resource Development Council continue to do work to ensure that career development is accessible to all our young people. On its part, organized labor has committed to support access to training for the unemployed. This commitment includes supervising and mentoring unemployed learners into the workplace in accordance with the agreed upon ratio for the sector. Organized labor is also committed to supporting skills training as part of its commitment to job creation and resource mobilization. Government, through the Department of Higher Education and Training, will ensure that the necessary financial resources to support these initiatives are made available. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The first supplementary question is from Honorable Kaula.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Honorable Deputy President. You say in your response that the strategy emphasizes the importance of technical and vocational training programs as a response to the challenges of skilling. Now, here are the challenges and the blockages that I would like you to talk to. The budget for NSFAS 2018-19 is 23 billion. Of that, 17 billion goes to universities, only 5 billion goes to TVET colleges. For the past 10 years, TVET colleges have not been allocated any budget for maintenance programs. The TVET funding, which is supposed to be at 80% by government, is today standing only at 54%. The report by the Minister of Higher Education and Training states that only one university in the country is accredited to offer qualifications for TVET college educators. The certification of students is very poor. The strategy says that certification should take place within 3 months, but colleges report that the first cohort of students who completed NCV qualifications in 2009, some of them up to this day, they have not yet been certificated. It's a lot more, sir. My question is, now with all these frustrations in the TVET programs responsible for skilling, how do we hope to achieve objectives of Vision 2030? And what is the role of the Human Development Resource Council in unblocking these blockages? Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. When it comes to the budget that is allocated for skills development, especially with our TVET colleges, it is not only NSFAS that provides money to learners who are training there. Provincial departments are also providing bursaries. Municipalities are also providing bursaries, a number which I have not quantified. But cities are also providing. So there are a number of agencies that are collaborating in order to ensure that these students gain the necessary skills. However, the question of the quality, it's a point that has been noticed. That is why we are now saying as government, each and every TVET college must be adopted by industry, so that those who are in TVET colleges, they can gain their theory, and there should be a time where they do their practical in industries, and the two must now qualify this student to get accredited, to get a certificate. Now, we say it's poor because they only go there and get the theory. When it comes to practice, they don't know anything. So, skills development in the main, in its form, requires practical education. Therefore, we must, as we continue going forward, match our training initiatives with industry, because finally, these people that we are training must be absorbed by industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second supplementary question is from Honorable Kone.
Thank you very much,
Honorable,
Chairperson.
we are going to be the third one. Now it's Honorable Kone.
Deputy President, you know, it's very painful from your response to the follow-up question of Honorable Kaula, because the bursaries you are referring to, unfortunately and painstakingly so, belong to the selected few. You must have a certain surname in order to qualify for them, or you must know who is who before you can qualify for those. Sometimes it's even worse. You must sleep with somebody before you get allocated those bursaries. So, but let's leave that for now. We can never bridge the gap between the economic needs of the country and skills needed if we do not develop all our people and skills them. Now, too many young South Africans qualify for the institutions of the higher learning. Now, the problem we are sitting with is the space in those higher learning institutions of higher learning. Number two is because some of them come from very poor families. So the issue of bursaries comes here now again. So the problem number one is monies. I'm not talking about the NSFAS because that's loan. And then we are trying to talk about the free education. So until the education is free, and it's of quality free education, then we will have the economic transformation, and then we will have people, we will actually have people that we will skill, we will create jobs and do all those things. Now, my question to you, Deputy President, is we want to know whether the government has any plans to increase numbers in the higher institutions.
Honorable.
Numbers of classes, the spaces, because Now, too many young South
Honorable
Africans.
Kone,
Chairperson?
yes. Round up your questions. The 2 minutes is over.
No, okay. Chairperson, Deputy President, we want to know if you've got any intentions of creating more spaces in the institutions of higher learning. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. You made a lot of comments that triggers me to respond. It will be wrong to say bursaries, children that want to go to school. As we offer these bursaries, we become selective. It's very wrong. Those who are in leadership must not do that. Because you are in leadership, you are leading everyone. So give children bursaries irregardless of where they come from, on the basis of merit, on the basis of need. I'm sure as the country goes forward in its own development path, more and more universities are still going to be built in the country. More and more TVET colleges are still going to be built. The country is now in the process of completing the 2 universities, the one in Mpumalanga and the one in the Northern Cape. They are going very fine. The number of learners are increasing each and every year. They are completing the classes. That is 2 additional universities. But in a growing economy, you need to emphasize on skills development, skills that are required by your economy. Our economy as a country, the backbone of our economy rests on the two sectors that are big, that is the mining sector as well as the agricultural sector. So those 2 sectors, we must ensure that at any given point in time, we have got enough workforce that is skilled to pursue production in those 2. And if we want to go to the higher level of even beneficiating, processing our agricultural produce, further processing our minerals, that will require the necessary skills that we must develop. Now, universities and TVET colleges become very important. However, we've got a high number of young people that have not reached the required level for them to be accepted in a TVET college. So we must create colleges below a TVET college level that can accommodate community colleges that will give our young people the necessary skills so that they can contribute positively into our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Wana, next supplementary question.
Andunipavela nje. Enkosi mhlali ngaphambili. Ngisekela mongameli. Umbuzo wami uthi kule ndawo yobuchwepheshe bezandla. Uhulumende wenza njani uyidibanisa njani lento skill development ne corporate? Because in corporate banazo eza test bazenzayo njengase Olifants when you are going to be an artisan in terms of mechanical issues, but as a department ke ngokwenzala ilinka njani so that aba bantu baqhubeka utrainwa babe befakwa kwi companies as around for economy yethu. Enkosi.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you. I think I've mentioned this somewhere in my answer to say for a very successful skills development in the country that will be qualitative and for successful artisan development, we must at all time try and link the two. Link whatever you do in skills development with what is obtaining in the industry. Offer your young people that you are training, offer them an opportunity to go and do practical work in a factory floor and make that a qualification requirement, so that when someone has completed a certain skill, that skill consists of theory and consists of practice. Thank you.
Thank you. The last supplementary question is from Honorable Oliphant. Honorable Oliphant.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Speaker, Deputy President, in terms of producing more PhD.
Honorable Faber. Order members. Honorable Faber, you refrain from what you are doing. You know it's unparliamentary and it's totally out of order. You are protected, Honorable Oliphant. Can you continue with your question?
How are we progressing? Is it PDH?
Honorable Deputy President.
The production of PhDs, doctors, as a country, I think we're doing very well. I can get the latest statistics in terms of yearly output from the different universities. I think we're doing very well as a country. We're undertaking a lot of research programs as a country. So more and more, qualitatively, as a country, we're moving to a higher level. Of course, there is an outcry that we are ignoring science and technology. We must insist to our young people to take science and maths as their subject, because down the line, they need to pursue careers that will need science and maths. The Department of Science and Technology is doing everything that it can to expand its research capacity. Now, this research capacity will need young men and women that have qualified through our education system to go and work in those research institutions. Now, research, innovation, it's very important for progress. We must try a lot of things as a country. We must innovate in order to move to the next level. It's important, but our education system is doing very well. There is constantly an output that we can be happy with as a country that is going to join the labor force. But of course, there are those that have dropped out of the system, which remains a problem. Those that have failed to complete their primary level, those that have failed to complete their matric level, this continues to be a worry to the country. Those are the people that we must ensure that they get skills, the necessary skills below the TVET colleges. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President, we now come to the fifth question asked by Honorable Labuskaghni. Honorable Deputy President, which is 1-7.
Thank you, House Chair. The President of the country has, in terms of Section 91(2) and 91, Section 4 of the Constitution of the Republic, delegated to the Deputy President the responsibility to promote social cohesion. In this regard, the Deputy President is also the patron of the moral regeneration movement. However, it is important to point out that this delegation of responsibility does not take away the function of line departments which are mandated to deal with various aspects of government's anti-corruption initiatives. The mandate delegated to the Deputy President includes the creation of a broad-based partnership between and among civil society, private sector, and the public sector to reflect on measures that should be encouraged to reconstruct the social values of a democratic South Africa. These values are non-racialism, non-sexism, equality, transparency, honesty, integrity, administrative fairness, and professionalism. In respect of impacting on the work of government, we have adopted Batupile principles that are essential about services to the people. The ANC government has been consistent in the implementation of the resolutions of the governing party in fighting crime and corruption. In this regard, government is doing everything in its power to strengthen existing systems and mechanisms designed to combat this challenge in all its manifestations. This includes, among others, our resolve to strengthen the institutions of our criminal justice system by adequately resourcing them and ensuring that they remain independent and impartial. Similarly, the establishment and resourcing of integrity management unit across various government departments and public institutions is intended not only to promote ethical conduct, but to protect the overall integrity of government systems. Where cases of fraud and corruption are suspected, integrity management units are tasked to investigate and make specific recommendations to ensure that perpetrators are dealt with in terms of applicable criminal and disciplinary procedures. The vetting of senior managers in government goes a long way in enabling government to detect integrity challenges which have a potential to compromise the work of government. On an annual basis, the Department of Public Service and Administration ensures that all senior government officials submit and disclose their financial interests. This allows government to detect the potential of conflict of interest in instances where government employees do business with government. Government has resolved that no officials are allowed to do business with government. Where this is detected, disciplinary actions are taken. Public Service Commission's anti-corruption hotline continues to be a very effective platform to inculcate an ethical and responsive public service. Fraud and corruption complaints reported through this hotline are investigated for action to be taken where incidents of fraud and corruption are detected. Among other risk management measures is our focus on strengthening financial management system to reduce the prevalence of supply chain management irregularities within government. The supply chain management environment is receiving special attention in order to curb high levels of irregular expenditure as published by the Auditor General. Over and above strengthening government institution and system, there is a clear government commitment towards building a cadre of senior public servants whose work is anchored on ethical leadership and sound moral values. As patron of the moral regeneration movement, I fully support the work done by this movement in relation to fighting crime and corruption. The main aim of the moral regeneration movement, which works in close partnership with other organizations and sectors of society, is to galvanize all of us, the rest of society, into action with the goal of rekindling our moral fiber as South Africans. One of the flagship projects of the moral regeneration movement is the current conversation series across the country in promoting the Charter of Positive Values. This charter is anchored in the universal values of all humanity, the founding values of the Constitution of the Republic, and various aspects of the Bill of Rights. It also finds resonance in the Batupile principles, to which all public servants must adhere. In this regard, the fight against all social ills, crime, and corruption across all sectors, it is at the center of the programs that the moral regeneration movement drives. Among key initiatives, this movement is seized with programs focusing on ethical and value-driven leadership. This forms part of the induction of government officials as they enter government employment. Through our partnership with Corruption Watch and Ethics South Africa, we aim to export the values of this program beyond government into broader society. At local government level, there is a collaboration between our moral regeneration movement and the South African Local Government Association to promote ethical leadership. Through these initiatives, our councillors, especially newly elected cohorts, are taken through orientation on the fundamentals of ethical leadership. This initiative does indeed speak to our commitment not only of fighting crime and corruption, but also of ensuring that we reduce and eliminate fraudulent and corrupt practices within government. Our stance is that a moral and ethical society must have zero tolerance to corruption, irrespective of who the perpetrator may be, whether a senior government official, a powerful politician, or an influential business person. All of them must face the law, and as and when they are found to have involved in acts of impropriety. This is the culture that we seek to inculcate and cultivate across society through this movement. However, this moral regeneration project will only meet its intended goals to the extent that it is optimal, supported from across the entire spectrum of society. It is not about playing to the gallery for the purpose of narrow sectorial point scoring, but it's about building a truly united, equal, and prosperous nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Labuskaghni.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Mr. Deputy President, thanks to a concerned citizen, the DA received information contained in the passenger manifest of a flight of the Gupta-owned Bombardier Global 6000 aircraft from Johannesburg to Moscow on October 26, as well as its return flight 3 weeks later, 14th November. It is public knowledge that you were on board this flight for both, on this aircraft for both these flights. What is not public knowledge is that the passenger manifests revelation that one of your 5 fellow passengers was Ruslan Goring, who is a senior Russian government tasked with negotiating mining deals between Russian and foreign governments. Mr. Deputy President, in the spirit of the moral regeneration movement, and as you quoted, specific the social values of democratic South Africa, such as honesty and integrity. Did you ever meet an individual by the name of Ruslan Goring? And if so, please clarify the reason for this meeting and sketch the details of what was discussed as the patron of the moral regeneration movement.
Honorable Order, Honorable Deputy President.
Well, for your sake, I'll try and help you. I was taken to Moscow in a very terrible condition. And I can't even tell you who was in that flight that was taking me to hospital. The only thing that I've noticed that I was in a flight. But throughout the flight, I was on very high pain medication. Now, for a person that has been offered this assistance to get to hospital, my attention was on my health. And I'm happy with the Russian government that allowed me to be admitted in their hospital, which is a public hospital. And I'm happy with all the people that have assisted me to get up on my feet, like I am today. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. So I've said before, and I'm saying it now, that there is nothing between me and the Guptas and the Russians. Till to date. There's nothing between me, the Russians, and the Guptas, except that the Russians, I went to a Russian hospital in Moscow, and I was assisted. I don't know.
Honorable members, honorable order, honorable members, when you are afforded an opportunity to ask a question, we are supposed to be listening. And when the Honorable Deputy President is responding to the question, you can't be doing what you are doing. Honorable Deputy President, the next supplementary question on this one is from Honorable Pakis. Honorable Pakis.
Chair, let me welcome the opportunity. My follow-up question will start with a comment that it is our collective expectancy that we ought to ask questions to the authorities without any sense of obliquity. Now, my question is, Deputy President, what is the institutional strength and monitoring mechanism in place to monitor the progress we are making or will be making on fight against parasitic looting of public resources, regardless of social status of those who are alleged or involved? Thanks.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, as a country, we've set up a lot of mechanisms. The biggest mechanism that we've set up, it's in the supply chain mechanism. The supply chain mechanism, which is closely monitored by our National Treasury. Our National Treasury can tell you wherever you are, when you spend money, they can tell you you have spent so much. The challenge that we are facing, it's whether that municipality, that province has followed the necessary procurement procedures. Now, before spending that money, that is why from time to time you find the Auditor General talking of an irregular expenditure or a fruitless expenditure. That emanates from the supply chain processes. That must be followed by officials who are dealing with the supply chain. But beyond that, we've got the Public Service Commission that has been tasked with the process of the anti-corruption hotline. The Public Service Commission will receive a number of cases. For instance, here, the Public Service Commission has received a total of 882 cases from across the provinces. In the Eastern Cape, they received 28, Free State 10, Gauteng 22, KwaZulu-Natal 10, Limpopo 18, Mpumalanga 11, Northwest 8, Northern Cape 3, Western Cape 16, and from the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, they've received 594. From national departments, they received 162. These are cases that are reported by people. And the public service will then go into a process of investigating. Now, out of the 882, the PSC has finalized 785 reported complaints, including the 594 from SASSA cases. 12 of 23 officials were found guilty and were dismissed, while the rest, out of the 23, were served with final written warnings. I'm trying to say we've got systems that we use to intervene, but practically, we must have people that love their own country. Patriotism is very important because no matter what a system, what a strong system that you can put in place, as long as that system is managed by human beings, they will fiddle with that system if they don't have the sense of patriotism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Mpambo Spugwana.
To you, Deputy President, from your utterances, Deputy President, I want to know, for the whole trip that you undertook, being in pain, were there no painkillers for you on the alleged poisoning? And did any doctor accompany you?
Honorable Deputy President.
For the whole process of the trip.
Well, I was discharged from a hospital. When I was taken to Moscow. Of course, I was given medication from the doctors where I was discharged. I used those tablets, but I must say it was a horrible air trip that I've undertaken in my entire life. Whether there was a doctor, but no one administered a tablet to me. I carried my own tablets. I used them when I felt I needed to use them. Oh, well, according to you, I was not very sick. It's according to you. Thank you.
Honorable Mpambo Spugwana, we are out of order. The last, we now comes to the sixth question asked by Honorable Sifako, and in terms of our rule, Honorable Makuwe will be standing in for Honorable Sifako, which is question 1-8. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, House Chair. The increase in the fuel prices is a matter of concern to government, our social partners, and the broader society. Increases in petrol price and fuel prices are mainly due to global factors that are beyond government control. Some of these factors include the dollar-denominated price allocation, political challenges in Venezuela, and the imminent US sanctions on crude oil exports from the Islamic Republic of Iran. Unfortunately, the developing economies, particularly in Sahara, have been the hardest hit. The Minister of Energy and Finance are seized with the matter, as indicated by the Minister of Energy in his address to the Portfolio Committee on Energy on the 21st of August 2018. A joint task team comprising of senior officials from the two departments has been set up to come up with proposals on how to alleviate the current situation on fuel hikes. The team is expected to report back to the two ministers by the end of 2018, September 2018. The Minister of Energy is having engagement with his counterparts in the region with a view of obtaining a more favorable dispensation for South Africa. We appeal to this House and our people to allow this process to conclude and have the report on what should be done to ease the pressure on South Africans so that it can be presented to Cabinet. Our government has nonetheless taken interventions to address the fuel price increase that came into effect on Tuesday. The projected 25 cents per litre increase was cushioned through the government's energy slate account that is normally reserved for fluctuations to balance out erratic price movements. Without doubt, the increase in VAT has negatively affected mainly households. However, government has made the necessary provision to zero rate a number of products for VAT, including brown bread, maize, samp, milk, rice, vegetables, eggs, and fruits. For those receiving social grants, government has made a provision for additional allocation of 2.6 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework in order to effect an above-inflation increase which will help cushion low-income households from the effects of VAT increase. Furthermore, the Minister of Finance has established an independent panel of experts to consider and review the list of zero-rated items. The panel submitted their report on the 6th of August this year to the Minister of Finance, and it was subsequently released for public comments on the 10th of August. The report recommends the following additional item to be included in the basket of zero-rated goods: white bread, flour and cake flour. Sanitary products combined with the free provision of sanitary products to women and girls, school uniform, subject to a further investigation, nappies, including clothes and adult nappies. For each of the recommended items, the panel suggests that the National Treasury must do further work to ensure that the benefits of zero rating accrue to the consumers. The Minister will then finalize the response to the report to this panel, taking into account public comments that were received by the deadline of the 31st of August. Through this process, the recommendations will be evaluated to ascertain if they have the potential to significantly benefit the affected poor households. Following this process, the Minister of Finance will determine which recommendations to consider for implementation and possible incorporation into current or future tax regime. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Makue. First supplementary question.
Thank you, Chairperson. We acknowledge the progress that has been made in the tax exemptions and also the petrol increases that government has absorbed. We also acknowledge when the Honorable Deputy President was responding to the first question, his responses to the IDZs and the SEZs. However, Chairperson, there is a cabinet statement, 1.4 of cabinet statement of yesterday says, and I quote, "The rising volatility in the global markets and the GDP outcome require that government accelerate efforts to unblock constraints to economic growth while providing support, underline, myself, vulnerable groups." Chairperson, we, from the ANC, has made a statement where we urge government to urgently implement an economic recovery package. Now, listening to all that you're saying, Honorable Deputy President, can you unpack further for us the cabinet statement, or can you give to the vulnerable groups out there an indication of a time frame? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, I'm not the cabinet spokesperson, but as members of parliament, I must convey this information from you to you, that cabinet has discussed this matter yesterday very extensively. And when the Minister of Energy went to go and make the public statement, he was allowed to leave cabinet, to go and address the public. That address from the minister, we're quite aware that this is a short-term intervention. Now that our people are going to pay 5 cents more instead of 25 cents, this is a temporary, short-term measure. Now, from the Lekgotla, where we come from, we discussed the economic situation at length. And we come to a conclusion that government must intervene. Government must intervene. That means government must find money elsewhere to intervene in the economy. Now, that intervention, some people call it a stimulus package, that government must try and stimulate the economy. Now, there are a number of sectors that government is targeting, but out of all these sectors, government is targeting agriculture. Agriculture needs to be stimulated. There should be additional money that government invests in agriculture to get our agricultural sector to produce more and more. You will have realized that agriculture has gone down. Our production has gone down. Now, if you look at our economic growth for this quarter that we're in, it's agriculture that has dragged us down together with manufacturing. So these are the sectors probably that government will look at and find a way of stimulating those sectors by using that stimulus package. But we want to reserve that for the President to announce exactly the stimulus package and how best to intervene in this situation. I can assure our people, all South Africans, that as a country we're capable, we will get out of this situation. I can understand that currently it's tough. The indicators from this second quarter of the year indicates that we're in a tactical recession. And I'm sure as a country we'll work very hard, applying all sorts of interventions to help the economy to get out of this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next supplementary question is from Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Deputy President, first for acknowledging and at least clarifying, not knowing Mr. Ruslan Goring on that same Gupta-owned flight to Russia. But let's get to the fuel situation, Mr. Deputy President.
Honorable Dlamini, Honorable Isaac, Honorable Faber is protected.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. It's actually Honorable Dlamini. Chairperson, yes, thank you. 525 million of the state fund was just spent to ensure that the petrol price only increased by 5 cents a litre. We're not even going to talk about the other increases. This is only a temporary measure, Mr. Deputy President. However, and after there is only enough money in the state fund for one more bailout of this type, what are your plans once this fund has been depleted? International fuel prices keep rising and the rand and our economy is collapsing by the day. The petrol price has doubled in 10 years. This means that transport and food of ordinary South Africans is costing more and more. The people are going hungry, Mr. Deputy President, and struggling while yourself and cronies live in the lap of luxury. You expect us to take your scraps and applaud you for temporary fixes, such as the urgent temporary fuel prices intervention measure, which is just another patch on a sinking ship steered by your ANC government. So, Mr. Deputy President, what are your plans once this funds has been depleted?
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, I've said to you this is a short-term intervention. We're quite aware of that. But this cushion is necessary. This cushion is necessary. We have made some strides, and I'm grateful that the President has taken the lead. In view of this situation, the President took a lead to go out and secure investment himself. And the situation looks very positive. Very soon we'll have a few investors coming into the country to invest. We're quite aware that those investments will only accrue towards our economy in a very long term. So, looking at a long-term horizon, we know as a country we'll get out of this situation if we secure the necessary investment. Now, we are not going to sit and rely on international investment. That is why we are talking of what is it that government can do to invest into the economy, to put a stimulus that will reactivate the economy, those sectors that are now lagging behind. It's not all the sectors that are doing poor. A few sectors are doing very bad. So we need to motivate these sectors through this stimulus that the Minister of Finance and the President will announce. So we need to also be mindful of the mining sector. The mining sector is doing very well now. We need to finalize the process of the mining charter so that we give certainty into that sector. Now, we're quite aware of the areas that we must fix to get out of this situation. Now that we have secured international investment, we need more and more domestic investment. We need to attend to certain policy gaps. Then we are home and dry. Thank you.
Thank you. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Kone.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Deputy President, this government has declared war, especially on the poor of this country. You raise VAT, you increase petrol prices because you don't have enough revenue. But this revenue could have been found in many other places, and it is choices and policies, decisions of the ANC government, which is why we have a revenue deficit. For years, billions, if not trillions of rands has left the country illegally through illicit financial flows of multinational corporations, and government has purposefully ignored this. Now you want to come and tax the poor when the rich haven't been paying taxes for years. Did the cabinet ever discuss alternatives to raising VAT, and was clamping down on illicit financial flows one of those alternatives considered? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, we are part of international treaties, working together with a lot of countries to deal with illicit flows. Now, this is a security matter, but I'm saying as a country, we're not just folding our arms, people getting out of our money, running away with our money, with our taxes. We've followed a lot of people. We've recovered a lot of our taxes. So we've got a very strong revenue system. Well, I agree very well that our poor people are now feeling the burden. Everyone in the country is feeling the burden of this VAT increase, the 1%. But the money, the 1% that we have added into our VAT goes into good use. Good use, you will see more and more of our people in tertiary education, getting education. That is a good investment for the future. Well, it's a painful process now as we pay this money, but the benefits are very huge in the future because we'll have a very skilled society, a very capable workforce that can take this country forward. It's not going to be a walk in the park. For us to develop, our road to development will be accompanied with pain. But down the line, we are going to reap the benefits. We are in a process of reconstructing of our country. We are not going to cry and say, we are like this, we are where we are today because of our past. We need now to take ownership of the problem and move forward. And the only way to take ownership is to come up with ways and means on how best we can take ourselves forward. We acknowledge, however, that along the way we could have done better. There could be one or two mistakes that we've done along the way. And out of those mistakes, I think we've emerged wiser to do better now for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable other members, Honorable Deputy President, you can go to your official seat. That was the last supplementary question.
Thank you very much.
Honorable members, I'll deal with it. Honorable members, sometimes we take it for granted as well the house that represent the interest of provinces. Today we've got our special delegates, MEC from the Eastern Cape, Deputy Speaker from Gauteng, the Chief Whip from KZN, the Speaker of Limpopo, the Chief Whip of Limpopo, the Deputy Speaker of Limpopo, and our special delegates from Eastern Cape and Northwest. So it was a full house with the people that will represent their interest here coming. On behalf of the leadership of the NCOP, under the leadership of the capable hand of Memo Dise and Chief Whip Mohai, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, special delegates, and extend a word of gratitude to you, Deputy President, for availing yourself to answer questions in the Council of Provinces. Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the house. The house is adjourned.